Welcome, Springfield Budget Committee. It's my pleasure to be here before you. My name is Matt Stouter. I serve as the Environmental Services Division Director. I also serve as the Executive Officer for the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. I'm pleased to present the fiscal year 22 budget to you. Due to the pandemic, this presentation is going to be recorded, but should you have any questions, there will be an opportunity to answer those afterwards. So, to begin, I'd like to acknowledge Catherine Bishop and Lou Alaco in Environmental Services for their help in developing the FY22 budget. I'll start off by providing a summary of what I'll cover with you today. First, I'll provide an overview of environmental services. Next, I will discuss our stormwater program, and then I'll move into a conversation about the Regional Wastewater Program and the Metropolitan Wastewater Management Commission. Finally, I'll wrap up by providing a very brief overview of the MWMC's capital program. So the Environmental Services Division has 5 main work areas and 24 full-time employees as shown in this organizational chart. Core responsibilities for the division include providing administrative functions for the MWMC, which I'll explain further in the presentation, as well as overseeing the stormwater program for the department. We also oversee industrial permitting for industries in Springfield and manage the city's fats, oils, and grease program. Our 5 main work areas include water resources, budget, finance, and billing, communications for the MWMC and the department as a whole, industrial pretreatment, and capital project planning and policy support and delivery for the MWMC. This budget overview slide presents an overview by program. On the left, actual dollars spent are shown for fiscal years 19 and 20, while on the right you can see the fiscal year 21 amended budget and the fiscal year 22 proposed budget. You'll note that the Regional Wastewater Administration line is by far the largest component of our budget. The bottom table shows a further breakdown of the budget. This year, there is a larger increase in personal services than in prior years. This is due in part to the addition of one FTE on the regional wastewater side, as approved by the MWMC. Materials and services have decreased slightly from the fiscal year 21 amended budget, and indirect costs and internals, which are outside of the control of the department, those have increased. Our stormwater program is guided by the city's National Pollution Discharge Elimination System Permit, better known as our Stormwater Permit. This permit is issued to the city by the Oregon Department of Environmental Quality under guidance from the Environmental Protection Agency. Our program is also shaped by 7 key stormwater goals as adopted by the Springfield City Council. Some of these goals are shown on this slide. I'd specifically like to point out 4 that guide much of the work that we do in environmental services. Chief among them is protecting water quality of our local waterways. Also maintaining compliance with state and federal requirements, helping citizens, businesses, and industry understand the need to protect water quality, our public education component, and providing regulatory certainty to the development community. I'd like to highlight a few focus areas and accomplishments from last fiscal year related to the stormwater program. First, in our public education and outreach program, we held several events to interact with our community and help them understand the importance of clean water. One of our most popular events is our Canines for Clean Water calendar contest. In return for filling out a pledge form and agreeing to pick up after their favorite pup, Springfield residents can earn a chance to be featured in our water quality themed calendar, which is distributed locally. Several thousand calendars are printed each year. This year, we redesigned the graphics of our calendar, as you can see from the front and back cover pictures shown on this slide. We also held our 5th annual Upstream Art Contest this past summer in the midst of the pandemic, with artists painting stormwater-themed murals over the top of catch basins near downtown to help educate the public on the importance of cleaning stormwater runoff. We continued monitoring and inspection of private stormwater facilities as required by our stormwater permit, and staff from our Water Resources Group inspected over 500 swales, ponds, and other water quality features, working with property owners to ensure these systems are functioning properly to protect water quality and maintain compliance with our permit. You may also recall that last year, along with several other cities, Springfield contested the new MS4 General Stormwater Permit issued by DEQ. I'm pleased to report that after much work and effort, we've ultimately reached agreement with DEQ on terms for a new permit. DEQ just reissued the new stormwater permit in early March after extensive public comment, and I expect the city will begin implementation later this spring, pending any final legal issues. Looking ahead at the initiatives for FY22, implementation of our newly issued MS4 stormwater permit will be a chief driver of our work programs. We expect the initial impacts to be associated with many of the new requirements contained within the permit, including the need to develop on-site retention standards for new development. Ultimately, this will lead to new updates in the Springfield Development Code as well as the Springfield Municipal Code to codify these requirements. We plan to continue to build on the success of our public education and outreach programs by making slight tweaks to optimize our public-facing events. I'll take this opportunity to point out the pictures on this slide of one of our artists from this year's Upstream Art Event, working on a stormwater mural along a curb inlet near downtown. Moving on, we'll need to continue to implement pollution reduction requirements and strategies for our total maximum daily load plans to ensure that bacteria and mercury entering the Willamette and McKenzie rivers is minimized. Lastly, I'd like to speak to our billing services program. In Springfield, user fees are assessed on all properties to help fund needed investments in our operating programs and capital infrastructure as required by our permit. We review these fees annually with City Council and plan to do so this year in late April. Looking ahead, the next several years will be shaped by implementation requirements in our new stormwater permit. Due to the aforementioned litigation I referenced earlier, we now have a workable permit to implement, but must meet the requirements contained within that permit in the next 3 years. This will result in additional resources being needed across numerous program areas in the department. Okay, I'm going to transition from the Springfield local side to the MWMC regional side now and speak to you as the MWMC executive officer. So here we go. The MWMC is a partnership between the cities of Eugene, Springfield, and Lane County with a service area of approximately 250,000 residents. We provide regional wastewater services for the metro area and are represented by a 7-member commission. Commission members include a city councilor from Eugene, Councilor Ye, a city councilor from Springfield, Councilor Pictionary, and a Lane County commissioner, Pat Farr, as well as 4 citizen member reps. Under this partnership, Springfield is responsible for administrative functions of the MWMC, and Eugene is responsible for operations and maintenance. Administrative functions include preparation and delivery of the annual budget, NPDES Permit implementation and administration, project planning and capital project delivery, and public education and outreach, among others. Springfield also provides the functions of the executive officer and general manager to the MWMC, and I serve in both of those capacities. The MWMC provides service to both domestic and industrial users inside the urban growth boundaries of both cities, as well as to mobile waste haulers from outside the UGB. In addition to the staff working for Springfield on behalf of the MWMC, there are approximately 77 City of Eugene staff who work at the treatment plant on River Avenue and at our Biosolids facility on Aubrey Lane. The picture on this slide shows regional assets owned and operated by the MWMC. Our assets total approximately $450 million and include pump stations and regional pipelines carrying wastewater flows from both communities. The Regional Water Pollution Control Facility, also known as the Wastewater Treatment Plant on River Avenue in Eugene, is where all the wastewater from the metropolitan area is treated before being safely discharged to the Willamette River. We also own and operate a Biosolids Management facility on Aubrey Lane between Eugene and Junction City, which I'll speak to in the coming slides. Our wastewater treatment facility is located at 410 River Ave in Eugene. It operates 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and 365 days a year. The average flow we see at the plant on a daily basis is approximately 30 million gallons a day. We do have the capability to treat up to 277 million gallons a day during wet weather events. On average, on a yearly basis, this averages out to be roughly 14 billion gallons of wastewater treated every year. We own and operate over 600 acres on Aubrey Lane at our Biosolids Management facility and Poplar Farm. Here, solids from the wastewater treatment plant are collected in large lagoons after being pumped from approximately 6 miles away. After settling and stabilization, the solids are harvested, spread out across large rows to dry, and then land applied to poplar trees as soil amendments. We also have cooperative agreements with local grass seed farmers in the area where we apply biosolids. In addition, we manage 3 large units of poplar trees totaling over 400 acres with approximately 88,000 trees on site. The poplar are grown with the biosolids and also with cleaned, recycled water from our wastewater plant. The 3 management units are harvested on 12-year rotations before being replanted. The end products from the harvest are used locally for either wood chips, peeler veneer, or ceiling grills for use in buildings. One such example of this is the ceiling grills in Springfield City Hall in the library meeting room. The MWMC operates under an NPDES permit issued jointly to the MWMC as well as both cities. The permit is issued by the Department of Environmental Quality under oversight by EPA. We expect to receive a new permit in late 2021, and conversations among staff and DEQ have already begun. Our new permit will be a major driver for future capital improvement work and will lead to the MWMC completing a new 20-year facilities planning effort, as well as a regional wastewater SEC update, and ultimately many new capital investments to continue to protect water quality. Given the construct of our partnership, the budget process for MWMC is a bit daunting. We meet with the Commission 3 times to discuss the draft budget, including a budget kickoff meeting in January, a discussion on the draft capital budget in February, and then a presentation on the operating budget in March. In April, the regional wastewater budget and CIP are presented for public hearing, along with our regional wastewater rates, and then in May, the Commission directs staff to forward the budget to the governing bodies for ratification. After ratification, the budget returns to the Commission for final adoption prior to implementation on July 1. A rolled-up summary of expenditures for the regional operating budget is shown here. Of note is the 0.998 FTE staffing increase on the Springfield side as approved by the Commission. Personnel costs have increased by approximately 2.6%, which is quite modest considering associated increases in the MWMC's obligations for PERS costs and health care. Lastly, our M&S budget is projected to increase by 7.5%. This increase follows 2 years of decreases and is due to additional expenses associated with increased chemical costs for processes at the treatment plant and additional utility costs associated with our new renewable natural gas project. This slide shows a 5-year rate trend with respect to regional wastewater user fees charged by the MWMC. Each year, the Commission evaluates rates with the philosophy of imposing small incremental rate increases over time to help the Commission keep up with inflation and avoid taking on future debt to fund our capital improvement program. Last year, the Commission chose to not apply a rate adjustment in light of the COVID-19 pandemic, and rates remained level for fiscal year 21. For fiscal year 22, the Commission has recommended a proposed 3.5% rate adjustment to cover the needs of the MWMC's operating and capital programs. Assuming a residence that uses 5,000 gallons of water monthly, a 3.5% rate adjustment would equal 95 cents a month. It is worth noting, however, that the average home owner in Springfield uses about 4,300 gallons of water per month, so the corresponding rate adjustment would be less than 95 cents. The Commission also likes to see how MWMC's rates compare to others across the state. Although it can be a bit like comparing apples to oranges because no 2 communities are the same and neither are there permitting requirements which ultimately influence and drive the rates, it's helpful to look at rate trends. This slide shows user fees for a number of communities across Oregon as of January 2021. You can see that Springfield comes in just below the average and Eugene is well below the average. The MWMC's portion of the user fees are shown in blue. The local components charged by Springfield and Eugene are shown in green. The two summed together are what the typical user would pay on a monthly basis for 5,000 gallons of water used. It's worth noting that one of the reasons Springfield's local rates are higher than Eugene's is due to past debt service obligations due to environmental regulations and mandates. Eugene has a broader population base for collecting revenue, which provides more funds for needed capital projects. Springfield, on the other hand, has needed to sell bonds to supplement funding for previous capital work associated with environmental mandates. This slide depicts the MWMC's proposed capital budget for fiscal year 22, as well as a 5-year snapshot of our capital plan and asset management program. For FY22, the proposed capital budget is set at $22.8 million. It includes projects I'll be discussing in the next couple of slides. Our 5-year total CIP and asset management program is set at $90.15 million. So I'll wrap up by discussing a few of our capital projects. I'd like to just start by discussing a few projects we completed this past year and then move into some carryover projects. The first project worth noting that we completed last year is our decommissioned WPCF lagoon project. This project was to decommission an existing on-site lagoon at the wastewater treatment plant that was previously used in conjunction with anaerobic digester cleaning. With the recent addition of our 4th anaerobic digester 2 years ago, adequate redundancy now exists in the digesters themselves such that this lagoon was no longer needed and was therefore prioritized for decommissioning due to environmental concerns. We also recently wrapped up our facilities plan engineering services project and will be embarking on a new facilities plan engineering services effort in the coming year once we receive our new NPDES permit. Moving on to carryover projects, one of our most exciting projects we're working on is our renewable natural gas project. We are utilizing this project in partnership with Northwest Natural Gas, and it will allow the MWMC to fully utilize all of the biogas we create on site through our anaerobic digestion process. By fully utilizing all the methane gas we create, we will be able to eliminate flaring of excess gas to the atmosphere, and the gas will be injected into the natural gas pipeline for use as vehicle fuel. Once fully up and running, this project will provide an additional revenue source to the MWMC, benefiting our ratepayers in both Eugene and Springfield. Our current projected date for startup is this fall. Another project we are working on is our Class A disinfection facilities project. The goal with this project is for the MWMC to produce Class A recycled water for use outside of our fence line in partnership with the City of Eugene, the sand and gravel industry, and other users. Furthermore, this project will help us meet thermal load limits associated with temperature requirements in our new NPDES permit. The last two projects I'll highlight include our Aeration Basins Improvement Project and our Operations Building Improvements Project. Our Aeration Basin Improvement Project is a 2-phase, $10 million project focused on energy improvements for our blowers and diffusers in the Aeration Basin. The first phase of this project is currently underway. Our Operations Building Improvement Project will seek to make updates and improvements to our 40-year-old plus year-old admin building at the wastewater treatment plant. This building is home to our treatment and operations console, and improvements associated with the building were determined to be of the highest priority from our recently completed disaster mitigation and recovery plan. That plan provided recommendations that the MWMC make improvements necessary to our regionally owned wastewater assets so that we can be functional in the event of a Cascadia subduction zone earthquake. So with that, that concludes the presentation for environmental services for fiscal year 22. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you with any questions you might have.